all the ongoing military conflicts around the world are really horrifying. But what is even more horrifying is that it can get much worse. And our mentality plays not the least role in it. Understanding nations' war mentality can indicate to us possible directions of how ongoing military conflicts could develop. It happens that I've got, one could say, a good understanding of the Russian mentality, as I'm from deep Russia myself, and the Western, particularly Western European mentality, where I've spent the last 7 years of my life. So I decided to try to explain to you how I see the Russian and Western mentalities in regards to warfare. And hopefully my background in psychology will help me to pick up on the main differences in a precise way. As you are probably well aware, one of the ongoing world conflicts is between Russia and Ukraine. Or should I say between Russia and the West or NATO? Well, both variants are true. And for now, things don't look good in terms of escalation. To put it shortly, the West is threatening Russia by sending their troops to Ukraine, providing more military aid, and allowing Ukrainians to hit targets deep inside of Russia. And Russia, in turn, threatens to use nukes in response. Fun! So, who is bluffing? If bluffing at all? And are we really ready to enter the Third World War? Let me try to explain how I see it based on my knowledge and experience of living in both worlds. When it comes to generalizations like evaluating a nation's mentality, you should remember that it is not a universal truth applicable to every person and is also subject to personal biases and experiences. Saying that, let's move on to how I see the differences between the Western and Russian war mentality. One of the greatest differences I see is in the core values that are promoted and absorbed by people since their childhood in the West and in Russia. While in the Western world the emphasis is put on tolerance, the value of life, individual rights and liberties, in Russia it's more about honor, manhood, masculinity for men and motherhood for women. While the first set of values seems to be much better for developing a civil society, the second set might be more useful during wartime. These differences, in a hyperbolized way of course, are partially reflected in these military ads.
It begins in California, with a little girl raised by 2 moms. Although I had a fairly typical childhood, took ballet, played violin, I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age, eventually standing at the altar to marry my other mom. I needed my own adventures, my own challenge. And after meeting with an army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength and maybe shatter some stereotypes along the way.
Knowing this, you might understand why in Russia one of the biggest insults for a guy is being told,
"You are not a man."
This implies that he lacks honor and is weak and useless as a human.
А чем стучать на пацанов, поди дай сдачи.
Их что, дядя Толян?
Я тебе не дядя, а папка. Отбейся, я сказал.
Отбейся, да отбейся, как?
Бей, чем попало. Рви зубами. Легай ногами. Ну, чтоб запомнили. Иначе ты не можешь. Закрой.
In the West, particularly in Europe, for most people, this kind of insult sounds ridiculous. That's what we call toxic masculinity. On the contrary, what is promoted is the acceptance and respect for all types of genders, including in the military.
My supervisor checked in on me, and make sure, hey, are you okay? Like, we don't know what's gonna happen, but we're here for you, we support you. My commander did the same thing.
Another big difference that I think exists between the West and Russian mentality is risk tolerance and even readiness to die, which directly influences how people would behave in case of war. You all probably saw those viral videos of Russians doing crazy stuff.
Арабская ночь! Волшебный Восток! Мать! А я без прав на ковре! Придурок ты, что ли?
Obviously, not everyone in Russia would do something like that, but I would say it's fairly common for Russian men to behave in a risky way to prove that they're man enough or just to try their limits. High risk tolerance also contributes to the fact that, in my estimation, a bigger proportion of Russian people are disposed to risk their lives and even sacrifice it for some of their ideals, like the country, the so-called traditional values, or the nation itself. In the Western turn, it's less common from what I've been able to see. People here are used to valuing their lives and their comfort and are very critical of their governments and politicians, which was also partially the case in Russia before 2022. Most average Western guys don't even contemplate the possibility of risking their lives for their governments.
No, thanks. I have new shoes.
Now you may understand why I am fucking scared and sincerely horrified by how the military tension between Russia and the West is developing. Russia is not stopping their offensive in Ukraine, while the West keeps escalating their rhetoric and open military involvement, which basically means poking the bear. Do you want to know what happens if you poke the bear too much?
If you poke a bear, it'll bite your whole head off.
Well, it was clearly pronounced already.
Францию, как ядерную державу, придется мгновенно разоружить. Британские острова просто уйдут под воду. Технологии для этого имеются. И мы о них как-то рассказывали. Но лучше до такого не доводить.
И мы как мученики попадем в рай, а они просто сдохнут.
Если кем-то принято решение уничтожить Россию, тогда у нас возникает законное право ответить. Да, для человечества это будет глобальная катастрофа. Для мира будет глобальная катастрофа. Но я все-таки как гражданин России и глава российского государства тогда хочу задаться вопросом, а зачем нам такой мир, если там не будет России?
Believe me, right now, these words should be taken very seriously. It's not a bluff. And I have some solid reasons to believe it's not a bluff, apart from psychological analysis, which I'm not going to discuss here. In fact, I see a lot of average guys in Russian Telegram chats openly asking for the president to use nukes. They don't seem to care that it's suicidal, but does it make the situation any better for us in the West? Now, is Western society really ready to participate in a big, potentially nuclear war with the Russians? Are you personally ready to be a part of this war? If not, then probably we should consider stopping support for fueling the war in Ukraine and instead start pressing our officials for peace talks.